Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. This is Authentic Conversations presented by Transition Clarity. I'm your host, Adele Bernard. Today I'm delighted to have Kathi Burns on the show from Pro Organizer. Welcome to the show.
Oh, good to be here. Thanks, Adele.
So let's just start by a little bit of background, how you became a Pro Organizer. What's the journey that brought you here?
Sure, absolutely. My company is organized and energized.com. And I've had 7 careers. And throughout that time, I was a licensed boat captain because I wanted to get paid to sail. I lived out of a duffel bag and I learned how to live small during that time. Then I transitioned to becoming a travel writer. Again, I was on the road 42 weeks a year living out of a suitcase. So again, I learned how to live small and minimal. And a few careers after that, I transitioned into having a publishing agency where I did collaterals for hotels. And shortly after 9/11, actually on 9/12, all of my contracts went on hold. I didn't get fired. I wish I would have gotten fired at that point and they would have said no, but they put on a hold. So I struggled for a little while after that and eventually closed my agency. And what happened after that is I had time to kind of reinvent myself and figure out what did I like to do. Well, I love change, in case you couldn't tell after 7 careers. What I also discovered was that people are afraid of change and they move through life kind of being in fear of the unknown and of change. And then I surmised, it took me 10 months to figure this out, that what can I do to help people lose their fear of change? I can help them on the external environment and help them learn how to take control of their clutter and their muck and create systems and eliminate the stuff that they no longer need. And once they become masters of letting go, I call it the letting go muscle, then they're able to move into change with more ease, because you can change easier when you're not holding on to the past or clinging to the future, right? So people become really well versed at learning how to let go, which helps him move into change. And change is the one constant thing we can find in life. So you might as well be good at it. And so that's all that I do really as a professional organizer and image consultant, is I help people change on their external environment so that they can move forward in life with less fear and more confidence.
I understand that because I, in a different way, do the same thing with the space of the energy, right? So working in the space of what's holding you back, like the walls do hold impressions, the shelves of whatever, like you say, well, I just threw a t-shirt on on the shelf from my duffel bag. And it's like, well, that t-shirt has the impressions of the last whatever days or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so moving through the change, we both know it's more than the stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's the emotions attached to the stuff. It's what importance am I putting in the stuff?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can you expand on that, like from what you're getting from your clients? Or
Yeah, what I find is that people tend to animate their inanimate objects through their emotional attachment, memories of the past, expectations of the future. All of everything that we own has an energetic vibe about it. And what I always ask my clients, or actually I listen to what they say when I ask them about their specific thing, like the t-shirt, and they're like, well, I used to love that shirt. That shirt was my favorite shirt. And I'm like, oh, do you still wear that shirt? Okay, because they're talking in past tense.
yeah.
And they'll say, well, no, not really, but I might need it. I might want to wear it. So then they're talking in future tense. And so have they ever talked about that t-shirt as in, that's my favorite t-shirt, I wear it every day? No, it's not even part of their day-to-day reality. So that's an indicator to me that they need to let it go. And because either they're in memories of the past and nostalgic, or they're in fear of the future that they might need it someday. One of my colleagues actually wrote that book, But I Might Need It Someday, which I thought was And so, as you work through your muck, so to speak, each and every one of us, if we listen to our self-talk, it really helps us know whether
Mhm.
serving us now or not. And I know, Adele, that's why we're having this conversation, because we're the perfect allies for each other. You work the same thing in your transitions, right?
Yeah. And working with the actual energy of the spaces that all the muck is sitting in. Um, well,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because this comes back to how you're brought up, where you're brought up, right? Because like I've had clients that, they're from the farm, right? They keep every nut and bolt, and it's just like, oh my gosh, are you joking? And then like my family's from the tropics. You don't keep things because it rots. Right?
Mm,
If you're not
yeah.
using it, it goes. And so it's so the parallel or the balancing of that, like where's the happy medium?
Yeah.
Because yeah, like you might find that the tractor needs that washer that you kept from whatever, but really? Like how much is it creating energy blocks within you because you're holding on to so much,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? And yeah,
Energetics of your stuff. I have a conversation with my clients all the time about the energetics of their stuff. So my opinion is everything in your life should give you more than what it takes.
yeah.
And and that is something to think about, because you think about just a sweater. Okay, so you're gonna
Mhm.
buy a sweater. So you start thinking about what color, what style, what shape. I'm gonna buy it because it has to go with these pants, right? And I need it to coordinate this outfit. So all that energy is around how big it's gonna be, the style, the color, the shape. And so you've got this formulated in mind. You've got all the energetics already spent on that. Then you get in your car and you drive, more energy. You get to the store, you walk around, you could go into overwhelm, you could get excited, but there's more energy out, energy out, energy out. Then you find it, you try, you're putting on it, you're putting the clothes on, more energy. Oh my God,
Mhm.
I'm so fat. I can't believe this, the large doesn't fit me anymore. And you got energy there. There's more energy spent. Then you finally say, oh, this is the one. And you go up to the register and now you expend monetary energy. So
Yeah.
you buy it, you have monetary energy, and then you drive home, more energy. You take it, you put it in the closet, more energy. You can't figure out where it's supposed to fit because it can't fit in your closet. So you stash it someplace else,
Yeah.
more energy. Then there's two things that can happen. Number one, you put it on, you wear it, and everybody's like, you look fantastic. And you're like, yay, that's the first time you ever got any energy at it. Or you can't find it because it's hidden in your closet somewhere and you're beating yourself up. And now that's more energy, bad energy from that sweater because you can't even find it. And then you go out and you go out and you wear it and your girlfriend says, are you tired?
Yeah.
You so good. And you're like, oh my God, this is my brand new sweater. It's supposed to make me feel great, right? So there's more energy that,
Yeah.
have you ever got
Well,
any energy yet from that sweater?
and it brings up the other side of it, of the hoarder to the shopper, the addicted shopper, right? Because the addicted shopper is buying stuff, the tags aren't coming off, it's being left in the bag, so it's not even being displayed. And
Yeah.
then they just sometimes throw them out later. Oh, I haven't looked in this bag for a while, I'll just throw it out. And you're
Right.
like, but you haven't even taken it out of the bag. And so you understand how that mentality of the clutter in your mind ends up in the clutter in your space. And I
Yep.
even brought this up with a client the other day about how many tabs do you have on your computer open, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm bad and I can get up to 20, 30 pretty easily. And it's like they're in the hundreds. And I'm like, how
Wow.
much mental space does that take?
Yeah.
We only have so much bandwidth. So
Yeah.
how much mental space is that taking to think and go through and like, oh, I saw that. Well, it's not there. Close them down. If you need it, you'll bring it back. If you need to start a note file of like where different documents are or whatever, then do like, yeah. So it's interesting how we all come to the same place by many different roads.
Absolutely. And that's why we're having this discussion, because, there's no one way to do anything. There's no one way to clear your clutter in your mind or your
Mm-hmm.
environment.
Space.
It's a matter of what's going to resonate with you. And the most important thing, as a board certified professional organizer, my code of ethics says that I have to create sustainable practices. I have to
Mm-hmm.
have practices that stick. If my
Mm-hmm.
clients, if they're not sustainable and it doesn't stick with them, I've basically not done my job.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea around that then is, how can I create a system specifically for that one person and how they're going to be able to implement and keep implementing it? And everybody's different. And that's the joy for me of being a pro organizer, is creating customized systems for each client. Nothing cookie cutter. If it's cookie cutter, it won't stick generally,
Well, but I mean,
20%.
even the cookie cutter thing of um putting all your hangers backwards, and if in a year you don't wear that item, it's gone.
Yeah.
Like some I've heard some organizers say within a season. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like I
Well,
figure,
it might work for some people. For some people,
yeah,
some of my clients want to do that. They get all excited about it, so they're going to implement it. Other of my clients are like, that's just crazy.
yeah.
That I'm going to do that. So then it doesn't work.
Well, and it's funny because I did it just for humor one day, and I was like, has it been a year or two since that's been that way? And I go, whatever, I still like it. Like, because I mean, especially when you live in the colder climates, like you don't wear those bulkier sweaters or those extra warm things every day. But when you do need it, you need it,
Yeah.
right? And like, yeah, we might have a few extra coats that we don't use all the time, but the day we need it, it's cold. We need it. And yeah, so it's interesting. So, and I understand the whole travel thing small, because I used to be on tour on tour buses and stuff, and so it was just like all your stuff that you used to think you need, you really don't,
Right.
right? and
Yeah.
and in my case, I could be bigger than a duffel bag because I had my bay in the bus and we put everything. But yeah, I mean, you still come down to what do you really need, and most of it is extra. And now with traveling, and they're charging you extra money for this extra weight, you're like, I don't need that.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
I can wash clothes on the sink or go to the laundromat or
We get
send it
more
up for
clear
dry
when it,
cleaning.
yeah, we get much more clear when it comes down to an expenditure to do it, right?
Mhm.
It helps a lot. What do you use to tour? I don't know about this.
Oh,
Where,
I was a tour operator for different tours, like so I live in the Canadian Rockies, so we would go all over our beautiful Rockies and province and stuff.
what fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I was out to sea, I remember specifically where I was. I was in the Gulf Stream and I was night and I was watching the satellite go over real quick. And I remember thinking about my apartment, thinking nothing there has any relevance. Like I don't need
Yeah.
any of it. And so every time I would come back from being out to sea, I would just purge. And that was way before
Mhm.
I was a personal organizer, professional organizer. I would just know that this is the time to purge because I have some clarity around all this. It doesn't mean
Mhm.
anything.
Well, and it puts perspective of how much do we actually need.
Right. 20% is the rule, the
Well,
80-20 rule.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so um yeah, as I look around going, but most of my stuff is like people have given me like paintings and yeah, so it's yeah, I'm not getting rid of them because
Well, a lot of people hold on to the gifts that they receive out of guilt. It's
oh
like
no,
they
I don't.
really like what it is. Well, maybe not you, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if anybody's listening out there and relating to,
Oh
I grant you permission to let it go if it doesn't bring you joy, and you don't have to keep it just because they gave it to you. It's the thought that counts.
yeah.
That they gave it to you with their thought. You say thank them, bless it, and move your good forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing how many times like you'll talk to the people that have given these trinkets to people and they're like, if they don't want to, get rid of it. Because a lot of the times the people that are giving it to you, they're second-handing it anyways.
Yeah.
They're trying to downsize, they're trying to, right?
Yeah.
And that even brings up a different question, like, so my girlfriend had a moving company, and years ago, like she could resell all the stuff, right? And then one day it was just like nobody in a certain under a certain age level wants any of it,
Mm-mm.
right?
Yep.
All the cabinets, all the china, all the, like, they just don't want it. If it's
No.
not wash and wear, they don't want it,
Yep.
right? And
Exactly.
so where do you put all that stuff? And
You
then
don't.
I had someone else on the podcast who's in fashion, right? And he says you'll be shocked at how much goes to the dump. You're donating it, and it's still 80% going to the dump.
Well, what happens here, and that's just so sad to me. What's happening
Yeah.
here now with Salvation Army and Goodwill is if they're not able to sell the clothing, they're actually getting paid to recycle it into other items. So they actually get paid for like old gnarly socks and that type of thing. They're selling it to reuse it, which is thank God, because I hate thinking of anything in the dump. I try not to take anything to the dump and try to take everything to a charity. And
But he's saying the Goodwills are dumping. They don't have the manpower. They just like, it's just, it gets shipped out somewhere.
yeah.
And I was just like, oh my gosh. And like, even like ordering on Amazon, right? You order 10 things, you keep one or two, half of what's going back just doesn't even get restocked.
Right.
It gets dumped. And it's like, oh, it's so frustrating. But
Yeah.
anyways, we're not going there. That's just, I want to stay in the positive of like what it means to stay in a clutter-free environment. Like,
What it mean? Is this a question?
yeah, so what are your clients saying after you help them organize and you have it clutter-free, and like, what are they saying?
It's pretty interesting. One client comes to mind, and he really was. He didn't have a lot of stuff, but he was totally not organized, and he had a bachelor pad, and I streamlined and created a bunch of systems for him in his apartment. And he called me the next week and said, "I don't know what to do with myself. I like have too much free time." Because he had
Mm-hmm.
been spending all this time like trying to move things around and shuffle things around. He was freaked out because he had an extra day. So that was one really crazy aha for me. I'm like, wow, okay, this is huge. I have another client who she called herself Cluttering Katie. And we were together for a few years. And then she became Uncluttered Katie. And she would report in towards the very end of our experiment and our exercises together.
Mm-hmm.
He has one empty drawer in her bathroom that will never have anything in it again, ever. And this is her respite. So she will choose that door. She will go sit in its kind of floor level. It's like the second one from the floor. She'll go into her master bathroom. And when she's feeling overwhelmed and stressed, she will go into her bathroom, sit on the floor, open the drawer.
And see it empty. Yeah.
She will never have anything in that drawer ever again. I know she won't. Now she's Uncluttered Katie. Well, I know she won't, because whenever we finished it, her little daughter comes in and tries to dump a hairbrush in the drawer, and that wasn't going to happen. So she's like, this
Yeah.
is mama's drawer. This is mama's space. This is mom's space, period.
Yeah.
I own this space. And for her, that is her cathartic way to just, okay, go sit, open the drawer, take a deep breath. And now she has space of her own. Space, is the final frontier to headspace is so very
Yeah.
important. As you know, you've got to have space to have clarity. And when you have clarity, you have purpose. When you're on purpose, you're fulfilled. And when you're fulfilled, you have freedom. It
Mm-hmm.
all originates with space, right? You can't have
Well,
clarity without it.
and it's also like, as a business owner, and as you're moving through life, if your space is cluttered, your brain is cluttered.
Yeah.
The ideas can't come, they can't flow. You're just like, oh, like, how do I get through this, right? And then you start, detaching from stuff and moving things out, and then the ideas start coming and you're going, oh, I'm back in flow, awesome. And you'll feel like when it's starting to close in on you again, you're like, okay, what needs to be thrown out?
Yeah. And
Right?
it's piles. Piles are
Yeah.
what do it every time. Piles will zap your energy with zero effort. In fact, piles will silently scream at you from afar. If you're not even looking at them, you know that they're there and they're in your psyche and they're in your consciousness screaming at you. It's like of things left undone, because
Yeah.
any pile is a symbol of something that's left undone. And
Yeah.
we hate undone things. We like closure as human beings.
Well, and it's interesting because on one of my tours I had a German judge, right? And she showed me a picture of her office. There's piles all over the floor. She was a bobblehead. And I went, what happens when you retire? And she goes, I don't know. It goes to somebody else.
Wow.
Like, it was so sad. I'm like, oh my gosh, like they just can't keep up.
Yeah, lawyers and I don't have any judge clients. I have very many lawyer clients, and they tend to like their piles for some reason. But there is definite better ways to handle piles than piling them. I try to take them vertical with their different things. But
I
yeah, I
wonder
mean,
if it's job security. I don't know. It just came up to me. It just came through. Job security. But yeah, like I couldn't even imagine.
yeah, I work with the legal department of Semper Energy, and I was called in to actually help the whole litigation floor with their piles and their files and figuring that out. And at the end of it, their productivity soared because they were actually able to find things, and they were
Yeah.
actually able to get rid of things that they no longer needed. They didn't realize all the crap that was in there. 80% they didn't even need. It was like all old stuff, and it, obviously as attorneys, it had to be archived, but it did not need
Yeah.
to be in their space at
Yeah.
all.
No, yeah, when I worked corporate, I was like, oh my God, yes, this is not working. They're like, what? And I go, it doesn't work. And I said, do I have free reign? And my boss like, sure. And I'm like, great. And I reorganized everything. And everyone's just like, oh my gosh. I go, I know. Look how much time you guys used to waste.
Yeah. Well, the average entrepreneur wastes 4 hours a week trying to find missing documents and missing items in their office. And that 4 hours a week adds up to a month a year, almost a month a year, that we lose just trying to find stuff that we know that we own, but we cannot find. That's the average.
Oh, wow.
That's the average.
That's
That's why I have a
crazy.
job. You know, case in point. We all have muck. We all have stuff that makes us stuck and unable to move forward. We all have unresolved pile sitting around that we don't know what,
Yeah.
a pile is one of three things. We either have no idea what to do with it. We know what to do with it, but we're just not doing it, or we're just shutting the door on it and avoiding it all the way together. That's the only reason that a pile ever exists. Actually, it's one of those three things.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, like I grew up in the time frame of touch it once,
Ah, love it.
right? Do I
Yeah.
always follow it? No. But yeah, so it's like as it comes in, is it a priority, B priority, or C priority? Or
Yeah.
junk, right? Like do it right away, right?
Right.
And yeah, and I find like, and maybe there's people listening that are the same way, is that going from that corporate mindset, that it's like, well, you got to do it because this is happening, that's happening. And then you go into entrepreneurship, and it's like, well, you're all hats,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like, oh, there's no one pushing you or pulling you for any way, right? Other than, like a scheduled appointment that
Yeah.
you honor because it's scheduled. And then you're like, what was I doing today? What hat was I wearing today?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. How
And
many hats was I wearing today? Where'd
yeah,
that
well,
hat go?
yeah, well, I've had probably 5 on today so far. The
Yeah.
day's still young. So yeah. Um yeah, and it's even funny because, like, I see the reminder that this was coming up and I was like, oh, gotta switch my hat. Okay. And I took a few minutes to kind of like, okay, what do I need? What do I gotta go? Get everything set up, right?
We do it all, and we
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing it all. Actually, a lot of times I work with entrepreneurs is like, what should we be doing? What's below your pay grade? What should you be doing? What should you not be doing? Like I just had, one of my clients just this morning is like, that is so below your pay grade. Like, why are you doing that busy? It's the busy stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
You should be out making your, $150 an hour. You should not be doing this little menial task.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes an outside observer sometimes to figure out, to see the
Mm-hmm.
cacophony of what's happening in a business. It's why both of us have jobs, actually, because we can give clarity and be the objective observer and say, why are you doing that? I mean, hey, masters hire masters. I have coaches that help me see what I can't see. That's
Mm-hmm.
what we do as business owners if we want to thrive, right? If we
Mm-hmm.
want to thrive, if we want to mumble around and wear the 15 zillion hats that we should be wearing, that's one thing, but we won't grow that way. There's no possible way. We all, as business owners, though, we'll always have like 5 or 6 hats that we have to wear, that we must wear. But
Yeah.
do we need 15 or 20? Probably not.
Well, and I know for me, I like to understand what I'm giving the person to do.
Yeah.
I don't have to be the expert in it. I just want to understand what tasks I'm giving them to do, because if something happens, I can pick it up if I have to.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've worked with business owners that go, I don't know what Sally does. I just hired her. I'm like,
She just does
well,
stuff.
yeah, like she just does stuff. And I'm like, you need to know.
Yeah.
Right. And then like, yeah, like when I used to do a lot of contracting for people, it was like I always left that manual for whoever was coming in. So everyone knew. Didn't matter if you're the owner of the company, the janitor of the company, like it didn't matter. There was a binder to let you know what was going on.
Yep. Having that SOP, that's very important.
Yeah.
Having a backup for your backup. I now am blessed enough to have a backup for my backup. So if something fails and someone gets sick or there's a holiday, someone else can jump in and do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a really important thing, is to definitely have a backup for your
Yeah.
backup. At bare minimum, the backup for your backup is the standard operating procedure, that manual that you're talking about, Adele, that somebody can jump in and figure it out. Worst to worst.
Well, and like I'm talking like 30 years ago too, right? With like when the business is opening up and no one knows how to open the phone lines because the receptionist didn't come in. And you're like, somebody should know how to do this, or open up the binder to open up the phone lines, right? Because how's business?
Find the binder.
Yeah, well, exactly, right? And so it's part of understanding the clutter and understanding what is needed, where is it situated, is everyone aware of it? These are the other backup files that are handy but not needed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So how long have you been doing this part of your work?
Going on 19 years.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a long time for someone who loves change. And I love it because every single client's different. So, I'm just so blessed that you'll find me in corporate environments, you'll find me in garages, you'll find me in small businesses, you'll find me wherever, you'll find me at the mall doing image consulting, right? Shopping. So that's what really keeps me jazzed is, my clients have a whole bevy. I have so many different types of clients and they have so many different needs. Lately I've been working a lot with entrepreneurial clients like my, creative artistic women. I love them because I get them totally. And so they're very easy for me to help because they think like I think, which is not normal. It's not the normal analytical professional organizer type of brain. So I love them. But yeah, 19 years and going strong. I think I finally found my Dharma. It took me a long time,
and it's
7
interesting
careers.
it's interesting about how you're saying about liking the change, but you personally aren't doing the changing. You're just helping others to change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
which is different, but well, we're also forced to change. Not for, that's a bad word. I find that if I have a new set of clients coming, like a new dynamic coming in, I'll start getting prelude to it. I'm like, oh, this is why it's happening. Cause Bill was coming in. Okay, got it. Right?
yeah, yeah. I love it. I love the fact that everyone is different. Every single client needs something different from me. So I can grow and mold and morph and become a different person for them based on what they need. So I still am doing a lot of change all the time.
Yeah,
And otherwise I probably would have quit a long, long time ago.
true, true.
Yeah.
And that comes back to doing what you love, whatever that is.
Yeah, and there's always a way to grow. I've been really, really, really working on speaking. I've been a speaker for ever since I started my company, but honing those skills. I just published a book. A book just came out that I'm a co-author of, and at the end of the year, there's a big book coming out that I'm a co-author of with Tetris.
Awesome.
The gaming company. So still doing stuff like that to expand my horizons and keep excited. I love writing. I love
So
speaking.
how would you be involved with Tetris? That's interesting.
They contacted me. They wanted to do. It's a publisher that wanted to do a book that combined Tetris with organizing, the game Tetris, because the game
Mm-hmm.
Tetris is all about organizing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they wanted to do a tabletop book um, that was about home organizing, and so I collaborated with the Tetris with the writer at Tetris. So she and I wrote the book, and then the publisher came up with the graphics and the design and the marketing and all that good stuff. And it'll be
So
released
by
sale right now on Amazon.
this is just my funny brain. So by reading the book, the parents are going to understand what the kids are playing.
Probably. Or the kids will understand why the parents are moving furniture around in their house. I don't know. It's a cool idea. I'm like, wow, this is so novel. Of course, I got all jazzed immediately about it and said, this is just going to be the coolest thing ever. And so I can't wait for it to come out. I finally just saw some artwork on it. I didn't even know it was on pre-sale. One of my other clients told me that they saw that I was doing this book, and I'm like, I did an NDA and I wasn't allowed to say anything about it until it's been released. It's been 2.5 years in the making.
Yeah.
And now I find out that it is on pre-sale right now, and it's going to be released on December 29th, something like that. I thought it was going to be out November 29th, 2 years ago, but it's
Oh,
finally,
it takes a long
finally
time.
here.
Takes a long time for publishing. But that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's pretty cool concept. They came up with it. I just wrote it. They
Well, but I mean, it's like that's not a small feat.
it was
Just
fun.
yeah, like, that's totally different hat.
Yeah. Writing a book about home organizing. The Tetris girl had to figure out how to put it in with the Tetris game, because I
Hmm.
wasn't even going to go there. I was just going to say, this is what you do. Here's step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Da, da, da. And she's like, oh, okay. We'll do it like the, and she has all the names for the different Tetris pizzas, right? So it's very interesting. She goes, oh, you would use that. I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah.
Sure. Sounds good. Oh, is that what a coach looks like?
And then the
Awesome.
publisher had to figure out, how do we graphically illustrate what these two women are saying, right?
Well,
That
hopefully
was
you used
challenge.
another woman.
Yeah.
Well, because the brains do work different. Like it's not a good or bad on either side. It's just the brains work different. We're built differently,
Yeah.
and we see things differently, right? Um, yeah, but that's fascinating. Using Tetris as yeah, that's
Isn't
fascinating.
it fascinating? I was like, this
Hmm.
is the kind of stuff that keeps me excited about my career.
Yeah.
Things like
Well,
this.
no, and now my brain's kind of going like doing the matrix of it.
Right. You're going to start playing Tetris on your phone. I mean,
No,
you know,
but
I love Tetris. I play Tetris like every day, pretty much. You
Oh,
know,
that's
I've
funny.
been
Did
doing
you
it for
play it
years.
before you did the work?
Yeah, I've been playing it for years. It's a
Okay.
great little, uh, for me, it's a brain dump. It's just like a non-thinking type of thing. I'm just scooting little things around and I'm like, woo, it's great. It's a good little release and a non-thinking, for me, it's a non-thinking thing.
Yeah. Well, I
Because
remember being on a plane for 6 hours and this lady beside me did the Sakudo blocks.
oh,
Like she
same.
didn't move. I'm like, holy Dinah.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
it keeps your brain young doing games,
Mhm.
keeps
Oh
and
no, I like while she did it that game, I probably did 12 games, but I was just like, wow. Like I guess, or who knows what she's going home to, right? Because like maybe she's going home to a whole big family and this is her last time for a while. So she's getting all the hours in she can. So
yeah, just
um
just to defrag, for Tetris to me is just a defrag. I can just go in and be mindless and just move stuff around and get wins and be all
yeah,
happy. Yeah, it's calming.
yeah. No, it's interesting. That's interesting. Um well, and that brings up the whole thing of people are scrolling, doing or paying Tetris when they should be paying attention to where they're at, right?
Yeah.
But we're not going to go on that rabbit hole.
No, there is a time and a place. That's a whole different podcast, girl. We could talk about that for hours.
Well, and it's showing that the clutter is keeping our attention span very short.
Yeah. Yeah, it's now about boy, I don't remember. It was 7 seconds a couple years ago. I think they're down to like 3.5 seconds
Yeah.
for attention
Well, the
span.
kids are 3.5 seconds.
Yeah.
Us older ones could maybe do 10, but because we were brought up in that time frame that you did sit and you did, read a book forever or what, like, um, yeah, and I'm personally like I hope like actual reading a book will come back and not being on devices.
Yeah, I love reading. Reading is one of my favorite pastimes of all,
Yeah.
but being an author, I love just the printed word in general.
Hmm.
It's a good thing, but I think that part of the challenge with anybody over 30, actually over 35 probably, is we weren't used to all this input. We like there's so many different ways to communicate right now. It drives me bonkers. Like if I'm not on Skype, my husband is upset with me because that's how he wants to communicate with me. Right. If I'm not on Facebook Messenger, my girlfriend says, why didn't you get this event? I'm like, I'm not on there. And I'm like, text me, call me. Oh, why is your phone on silence? Like, so then there's Zoom and there's Skype and there's Messenger and there's text and there's WhatsApp and there's so many different emails, so many different ways to communicate that I think that that's why a lot of people right now think that they have ADD or ADHD because they can't keep up with technology. And I think it's probably overdiagnosed, but at the same time, we are all a little ADD if we're over a certain age. The youngins have got it wired now. They came into the world more wired for it than we are. But I think that
But yet they're leaving it behind.
leaving it behind.
The tech.
Yeah.
They're saying we don't need it.
Interesting,
Right?
huh?
Yeah. Because
And there's
they're coming in so advanced that they don't need technology to text you. They can just send you a message telepathically. It's for us to understand that they're sending it.
yeah, I
And the
like it.
fact that you just said that your husband talks on Skype, I'm like, Skype? Is that thing still around? I thought that was gone 20 years ago.
No, Skype. If I have to have Skype open. And actually, I communicate with my team now via Skype. So Skype is my choice of communication for my team and for my husband. It just works for me. I am not going to be on Messenger. I'm a sniper when it comes, I have someone else doing all my social.
Mhm,
Just can't, there's just too many ways to communicate. There really just
mhm.
really,
Yep. And I tend to use Telegram now, so, but yeah. But
too
then
many
there
ways.
again, right?
Too many
It's the
ways. I don't
clutter.
even want to know about Telegram. Too many, I already have too many options.
Well, this group I'm part of, they chose Telegram as their hub for corporate all the way down. So I respect that. They made it as a company decision.
Right,
If you want to know what the company's doing, this is where they're doing it. Okay.
right, right.
You can
Well,
opt in or opt out.
you have to choose one. That's what I'm saying. I
Yeah.
chose Skype for my team. That's my one, right?
Yeah.
We aren't going to have to deal with it any other way. So yeah, you got to choose one. I always say choose your weapon, choose it wisely,
Hmm.
and have one if you can, no more than one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
and that,
organized.
like, I'm even thinking that with social, like, I'm going, how many avenues on social media do I need to use?
Right.
Right?
I think going deep instead of wide is totally the way to go. Choose a couple, go deep into them, go down the rabbit hole of them,
Hmm.
and don't go wide, because wide you're just fragmented. That's my
Yeah,
opinion.
and I technically only have 3. And that's including a lineable. That's a social, right? Like, um, but yeah. And then, well, yeah, and it's interesting because you think about the clutter of like corporations and you're going, okay, like, great to meet you, but then to get the one gem, how many rocks do we have to go flip? That's okay. Every person has their story and every person, is is great. And doesn't mean that you are going to be that partner, that connection, right? You know?
It's funny, I get called into corporations a lot. Not last one, but one a few years back that I really enjoyed working with is they called me because they wanted to put in another bank of file cabinets. They're like, we
Mhm.
need another bank of file cabinets. We want to make sure that we're organized around doing this. So, let's come in and let's talk about it. And I'm like, we are going to get rid of a bank of file cabinets. We're not going to add a bank of file cabinets. And so we did. So we got rid of a bank of 4, and they were going to go from 8 to 12, and they went from 8 to 4 by the time I was done with them. Because once you realize what papers you need and what papers you don't need, it's easy to get rid of the papers that you no longer need. But people don't, the normal file system, 80% goes in and never sees the light of day again. It just goes and then never
Yeah.
comes back.
Well,
So,
especially as everything's gone digital.
well, everything's not, and that's the
I
problem.
know.
We're half and half, so that's, until we become paperless, there's still going to be
Oh,
this.
we'll never become paperless. There's no way. No
Well, there's
way.
going to be that challenge forever.
Yeah.
Is then again, you have two things. You have paper, you have digital. It's not like let's choose one.
Well, I know, but I worked in a position in oil and gas of like how to keep the old technology still running to be able to read all the files.
Yeah.
Digital's not always the best way either. And so you have to have one preserved copy of every project, like sealed properly, whatever, vaulted, however, that if digital goes down, that they can go back in the records.
Yeah.
So
And let's
yeah.
hope they have a CD drive or some other drive that they can
No,
actually.
that's why the drawings are always in a sealed, like, it's crazy vaulted place, like air controlled, so it doesn't destroy, the ink doesn't come off. It has to be special ink. Like, it was quite an eye-opening position. I was like, wow, who knew? Right. And then part of my thing was like sending it off storage, right? And these boxes could go on normal, but these ones had to be in the airtight. Well, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
how do you find them after 50 years? Because the people who put it on storage aren't here. Like,
Yeah, I was in the recording industry early and as one of my careers as an audio engineer. And, we still had the vaults with the 2-inch reels and the eighth
Mm-hmm.
inch reels. And, those have to be preserved forever.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we want that quality, just like the kiddos are going back to vinyl,
Mm-hmm.
vinyl sounds better than digital.
Oh, it totally does.
Yeah. So there's that, the preservation of past without it being clutter is the idea, right? How
Yeah.
organized is it? Can we find it
Yeah.
quickly?
Yeah. Well, and this is where, like, going back to vinyl, they built the record player with a a um
Diamond.
no, a USB jack so you can put it on your phone,
Oh yeah.
right? I was like, well, that makes downloading easy, right? As I was like on the radio tape. Oh, he talked, back it up, right? Like, but yeah, I mean, it's technology, the clutter, it's all part and parcel. It's
Mm.
all, how do we move forward without having our bags come with us?
And that's the situation when you're half and half, you're half in, you're half out. It creates some chaos.
Yeah.
It definitely does. I work with clients all the time, transitioning them from paper to digital. And it's a hard jump for a lot of people who are used to have everything on paper and have everything written down and their own little handwritten calendars are on that. It's a challenge, but they're not going to be able to thrive and really grow their business exponentially until they learn to jump into that digital world.
Yeah. I'm both. I'm right in the fence. I can do the digital, but I still like the pen and paper. I think easier. I like it. I flow easier with ideas, pen and paper. Oh, and then I talk it into my computer after.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank goodness for Google Dictate. Love it.
yeah. Well, and it, I'm grateful for being able to do both, right? Because the kids nowadays can't write.
Right. They aren't even learning writing, actually. I
Yeah.
heard they're not learning cursive for sure.
Well, not in school, but the parents are making them.
Are they?
Well, because I was in a writing class and they said like handwriting is becoming the new Morse code, right? Because kids can't read it. They can't write it. They barely know how to hold a pencil,
Wow. That's
right?
wild.
Yeah. Like I was with somebody, it was a grade 12 student, and I said, oh, just sign this quick, whatever. It took him 10 minutes. I'm like, are you joking? We don't use pens. We're on computers. I'm like, oh my God. I looked at his mom and I'm like, I was surprised she didn't make her kids write.
No, I mean, we're getting to the point we aren't going to need it. It's going to be moot.
I don't think so.
Maybe a few hold-ons that love the authors, that love to write, that love the pen and ink. There'll be a few holdouts for sure, but it's not going to be necessary.
I don't think so. I like your brain works differently handwriting
Time will
than
tell.
typing.
Time will tell. I was telling my client that just a couple hours ago that it used to be that I would have to write it for it to be more solid because I'm a tactile learner.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've done the typing so much on my computer that now has replaced the tactile memory. The actual tapping of the keys is doing it
Mm-hmm.
for me now more, but it's been a transition period for sure. And it
Mm-hmm.
didn't come instantly, and it's still not as good as pen and ink, but it's getting there. The
Mm-hmm.
actual art of typing it is getting there for me as a
Well,
tactile.
and I guess for me, my when I'm doing my spiritual work, it'll always be pen and paper, right? Because I don't want the computer thinking about, oh, did I type that right? I don't care. Like,
Well, and there's electronic waves and all that stuff anyhow that you probably don't
yeah,
we don't want necessarily the computer to be open for that.
yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So as we start wrapping up, what are just a few key tips that you could share with the listeners to help if they have no idea where to start. Like, they're not ready to call in a professional. What are some things that they could do to start clearing the clutter, clearing?
Well, you have to exercise your letting go muscle. And most of our letting go muscles are atrophied because we haven't done it, right? So
Mhm.
if you're find yourself surrounded in clutter, it means you haven't been letting go enough. You haven't been moving your good forward into the world. So I always say the easy way, start with your sock drawer. There's only been a couple people in 19 years that are really emotionally attached to their socks because they mean experiences for them in different places. They call us sock collectors. But generally, starting with your sock drawer is an easy place to begin because there's no charge about it, and
Yeah,
it's a confined amount of space. It should be in one drawer, or two drawers, or a basket or something, right? So
yeah,
start there. Start where it's easy. Get rid of the loosies. Get rid of the ones that have holes. Get rid of the ones that don't match. Get rid of the ones that you hate that you don't wear anyhow, and organize them, separate them, and let go the stuff that you no longer need. And that's the starting of the letting go muscle. You're like, okay, got rid of that. And then
yeah,
you can create order within that space. And whenever you have order within the drawer, then it feels good too. And now you've got a little bit of a dopamine rush so that you feel like, I did that. Okay, I did that. I did that. I can move on. Whatever you do, don't start with your junk drawer because that's the hardest one of all because it's so miscellaneous. But start small, start wherever you can start. And just give yourself small wins as you go and learn how to let go. If you decide that you're going to donate stuff, I always have a donation box in my house where anything that I find that I don't want goes right into the box. Box gets full, box goes to my donation station. Get to know where
uh,
your donation station is. Start a donation box in your house, and you'd be amazed at how much stuff you find laying around that you don't even know where it came from or what you're using it for or when last time you used it. Throw it in the box and let it go. And then once it's full, go donate it. Don't put it in the garage, a full
yeah,
box crap, because that's what people do. Put it in your car, take it to your donation station,
yeah,
learn how to let go with grace. The more you learn how to let go with your physical stuff, the more you're going to be able to thrive in the real world environment because you're going to be able to move and zoom and flex and change much easier because you
yeah.
won't be stuck in those old patterns.
Well, and just on a different note, the clutter is your weight. If people have fluctuations in weight, I'll
Oh,
tell you, you got clutter.
oh, my colleague Peter Walsh wrote the book, Does Clutter Make My Butt Look Fat? And there is a definite correlation between how much clutter you have and how much you weigh. That this is already a fact.
Yeah,
So, if there's a lot of different reasons for it, but the majority of my people that are super cluttered are overweight.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. So if
Wow.
you're going to lose weight, lose your clutter. That'll help.
Yeah. Well, and like, I mean, I know we're kind of saying it funny, but in saying it funny, it is all part of the energy. It is all part, like, right? So, it's as you clear the clutter, your body clears your, right? Like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Your clutter, your clutter is stuck energy. Stuck energy turns into fat. I mean,
Hmm.
there's for sure about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, you just want to make sure that your energy is flowing in and throughout your
Hmm.
body, in and throughout your house, in and throughout your mind.
Hmm.
Let's get some energy moving. And the
Hmm.
easiest way to do that, from my perspective, is start letting go of your crap, of your
Hmm.
stuff that you no longer need, use, or love that's in your environment. Just start releasing it. And
Well,
take the
yeah,
challenge with your sock drawer. Just go for it.
and I stopped buying books
Yeah.
because my bookshelf was too full of books. So I was like, oh, I can't let go. And so now I borrow books. I go to the library. I download. Yeah. And so I'm still getting all the information, but I'm not letting it get stuck on my shelf.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
wow.
You have to have an agreement with yourself about how much is enough, you know,
Yeah.
and maybe it's one bookshelf worth of books, which is what I have over here. One bookshelf
Yeah.
worth of books is the amount of books I'm allowed to have. That
Yeah.
I told myself, that's my agreement with myself about how much is enough. For other people, it could be a wall of bookshelves. It doesn't matter. It's just an agreement with yourself about how much is enough and how much is too much.
Well, and it's also, if you get stuck with your bookshelf and you never change the books out, then new ideas can't come.
Yeah. And if you don't have space,
Yeah,
you don't have new ideas.
the new book can't show up. Yeah, and that was my conscious effort to say, I have my special books that I'll always have that you're going to read forever and ever,
Yeah.
but I also want to just keep putting them out, like, you know. And I love, like, when I'm walking around the neighborhood, going to the little library boxes and going, oh, what's jumping at me? Nothing. Okay, perfect. Another day I'll go, oh, this one is perfect. Put it in my pocket. You know.
And then you put it
And
back into the library at the neighborhood when you're done. That's what I do.
yeah, well, and I tend to, like, if I take it from one area, I'll give it to another area, so it changes neighborhoods.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so it's been a pleasure. Once again, Kathi Burns from Pro Organizer.
From
I'm
organized and energized.
sorry. Well, you have Pro Organizer. And I'm Adele Bernard from Transition Clarity. This has been an authentic conversation.
Yes, it has.